Hi, I'm Rebecca, and in this film we're going to have a look at introducing the bar model into Year 6 and whether or not it's too late. Now, I am a primary school teacher and maths lead from a primary school in Gosport, and I also run an independent teaching and learning consultancy. So, what is bar modelling and how will it help in Year 6? Well, bar modelling is really important because for Year 6 pupils it can work with most areas of maths. It gives you a pictorial representation of a problem, and obviously in Year 6 these problems can be really tricky. It bridges the gap between the concrete and the abstract calculation that the pupils have to do. And it also helps pupils make sense of a problem. So let's have a look at how a bar model would work. Here I've got an example of a question. Sam has 12 sweets and he gives 4 to his friend. How many does he have left? Now, the picture of the sweets here actually represents the concrete resources that a pupil might use. They might have some real counters or some objects to represent the 12 sweets. You can see here that it can progress onto actual physical bar model where you could use some cubes to actually represent what that would look like. And then that bridges the gap between that and the real bar model that is drawn to show the calculation. The bar helps the children make sense of the problem. So here we have a whole bar and it's split into 2 parts. Our whole represents our 12 sweets. He gives 4 to his friends so pupils can see that 4 are taken away. And they can use the bar to think about relative sizes as well, which really helps children with their understanding. By doing that, they can then use that to see what the answer would be at the end, that he would have 8 sweets left. It bridges the gap and it helps pupils to see how they can move on to the abstract calculation. So let's see how we might use this in Year 6 and why we might use it. Now here I've got a fractions problem that actually looks really difficult. Sarah has half as many sweets as Owen. Owen has 1/3 as many sweets as Jessica. And Jessica has 24 more sweets than Owen. How many sweets do they have altogether? Now, most Year 6 pupils would look at that problem and find that very, very difficult to even know where to begin. The actual fractions in the problem aren't very difficult to work with, but the complexity of the problem makes it hard for pupils to solve. And in the past, lots of pupils would have not even tried to do this, and it would have been the more higher ability, greater depth pupils that would have given it a go. But I'm going to show you how, if you introduce the bar model into Year 6, this problem could be accessible to all children. So here I've drawn 3 bars and I've used that to solve the problem, making sense of what it's asking. So here I know that Jessica has 24 more sweets than Owen. So I've drawn a bar to show hers first, knowing that he's got 1/3 as many as her. And then I can use that to help make sense of the fact that Sarah has half as many as he does. Pupils can then see that because he's got 1/3 as many as Jessica, we can split Jessica's bar into 3. We know that this number here is 24, which is 2/3 of the whole bar. So 2 parts of the bar must equal 12. That then tells us that Owen must have 12 sweets, and then Jessica has half as many as Owen, and so she must have 6. And you can see that the bars kind of represent the sizes of the numbers that we're dealing with in relation to the other numbers. Pupils can then use this to work out the calculation in Year 6 and in any year group. So here you would have some pupils would instantly see the relationship before even putting all the numbers in, and they could work out the calculation very quickly. But some children would need to put all of the numbers in and then do their calculation to work out the answer. And that's fine. Don't feel like you've got to push them to label all parts if some children click a bit sooner and they work it out quicker. The important thing when you're introducing a bar model is to give pupils practice using variations of a similar problem. So let's have a look at one now. Here I've got a really similar problem involving fractions again and the similar sorts of arrangement of the bar. So I've got some children plant some seeds for the school vegetable patch. Sarah plants 1/4 as many as Owen, and Jessica plants 2/3 more than Owen. Owen plants 8 seeds. How many do they plant altogether? So here you can see again the bars look the same. They're not the same size exactly, but they're in the same arrangement. So this is giving pupils a similar context to work with, and they've got that variation to hold on to while they practice using it. We can see here, she's got 2/3 more than Owen. We know Owen's got 8, so that's the number we start with, which means that we can then label Jessica's bar. Some pupils will straight away then see the link and they'll work out that Sarah's got 2, and that's fine, they can just run with it. But for other pupils, you might have SEM pupils or pupils with EAL that might find it hard to process information. This would really help them, because then they can label the bars and work out the calculation from there. And you can see here that we now know how many everybody plants and then use that to work out. Some pupils will be able to work this out mentally, but other pupils can actually use the bar to even help them solve the calculation at the same time. And this sort of thing is really good actually for assessment. If you give pupils questions like this and the bar model to practice, once you start to see how they use the bar to solve, it's a good assessment tool for recognising gaps, but also seeing pupils that are ready to go on to that greater depth. Ratio is another really difficult part of the Year 6 curriculum that a bar model really helps with. So let's have a look at a very complex problem that pupils would struggle with, because it's not just simply multiplying or dividing to get the answer. Here we've got Josh and Sanjay both have some trading cards. The ratio of Josh to Sanjay's cards is 7:4. If Josh gives Sanjay 48 cards, they will have the same amount. How many cards did Josh have to begin with? So here, our 2 bars represent the cards along the top. We've got Josh's along the top, and we know that he's got 48 more. And then the bottom bar represents Sanjay, and they're split into equal parts. Now, because we know that Josh has got 48 more, we can see that 3 parts of the bar equal 48. So dividing that by 3 would tell us what 1 part is, and that's 16. Straight away, some pupils might see the link, and then they will be able to work out what 4 times 16 is. But for other pupils, they might need to actually put the numbers in and then partition it by doing 10 lots of 4, 10 lots of 6, and then adding them together. But you can see that by introducing the bar in this way, it's really helpful for some pupils to make sense of that very, very difficult problem that they probably wouldn't try. Coping with the SATs is a difficult thing for all Year 6 children. So if you introduce the bar as one method, not just the only method, it's going to really help some pupils when they come to sit that test. For example, with the algebra questions, this isn't a very difficult SATs question with algebra, but for some pupils, they might just look at it and panic. And if you've got working memory, you might find it very difficult to actually remember what the letters and the numbers mean. So here we've got n equals 22. What is 2n plus 9? If we put it into a bar, it makes that very easy to understand for you. You can see that we can label the bar, each part is 22, and then add another 9 on. And like I said before, don't push people to label it every time. A more complicated one here, we've got 2q add 4 equals 100. So what is the value of q? So here, our whole number here is 100. We've added 4, so if we take 4 away from the end, we can see that 2q is 96. Moving on, if we divide our 96 into our 2 parts, you can see that q straight away equals 48. So a quite difficult algebra problem is all of a sudden made much simpler. So when we're introducing the bar model, it's really important that you model it alongside other methods. It's not the only tool, but it's important that you show children that it's one way they can do it. If you have pupils that need an intervention, then actually doing an intervention with bar modelling is very helpful for them to just keep practicing and overlearning how to use it and the different types of bar models and what they might look like. I usually start every morning with a maths problem and ask children to draw what the bar might look like for that problem. That's one way you could introduce it. But make sure you give them a toolkit of things they can use. So they've got the bar model here as something that they can draw on. We've got formal calculations that they can use, mental strategies, and of course the number line is still a very, very important tool that pupils need to be able to draw on. So there you go, that's how to use bar models and to introduce them into Year 6. It's definitely not too late. And here's how you can get in touch for more information.